Good evening, this is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros.
Hindi kino-confirm ng officials pero hindi nangangahulugan na wala. Hindi nangangahulugan na wala. Ako, naniniwala ako bilang mananaliksik sa area na yan na ang threat ay nag-i-exist. Nag-i-exist ang threat. Hindi lang natin matukoy ang specific nature ng threat na to, pero yung general configuration ng threat ay naniniwala akong real at hindi lang bungang isip to. Dahil nga marami ng mga grupo ang nag-pledge ng allegiance sa IS at ang tingin nila na sila ay kabahagi ng global jihad. At nakikita ko sa global jihad na to yung tinatawag ko na revival ng religious war between the Christians and the Muslim. Yung intention nila at capabilities meron, pero ang tinitingnan nga natin dito ay ma-deny sila ng opportunity na i-carry out yung kanilang masamang hangarin. Yun ang kagandahan ngayon ng ating law enforcement authorities because right after September 11, 2001, nagkaroon ng series of capacity building sa military at sa police at sa mga concerned government agencies para mas maintindihan yung evolving nature ng threat na to. Kaya ngayon, mas handa tayo, hindi kaparis noon na wala tayong kahandaan, clueless tayo. Nung nagkaroon ng Rizal Day bombing noong 2000, hindi natin alam kung bakit nagawa yun, saan nanggaling yun. Saan ba kabahagi yung insidente na yan. Pero ngayon, mas nauunawaan natin yung konteksto ng pangamba at mas nauunawaan natin yung nature ng terrorist threats emanating from Islamic extremist groups, lalo-lalo na sa mga threat groups na nagbabanwagon sa popularity ng IS or nagpe-pledge ng allegiance sa IS.
There's a little bit too much going on that it's starting to mar preparations for Christmas and the Pope's visit in January. An arrest warrant is out for a 19-year-old American Marine for killing a Filipino transgender woman in Subic in October, but the United States will not give up custody so easily. A raid on the new Bilibid prison reveals an entirely different kind of underworld and a renewed interest in ISIS following the hostage crisis in Australia is the group here in the Philippines. That's what we talk about tonight in this first segment. Our guests, Colonel Restituto Padilla Jr., spokesperson of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Jose Custodio, defense analyst, and a guest very often here on News.PH, and Carlos Santamaria, journalist. That's okay? Yes. Thank you very much for being here, and good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Pia, for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So let's begin with this. The first question is the title of the segment, is ISIS here in the Philippines? So just answer it first with a yes or a no, and then we'll go to the explanations.
No.
No, it's not?
No.
Jose?
No.
No? Carlos?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Sir, tell us why
The
ISIS is not here in the
Armed Forces
Philippines.
has been saying all along that ISIS is not in the country. The first time that it came out in the news, that the group is getting stronger and that the United States came out in the open to declare all these threats out there in the Middle East. To our mind, the difference in culture and the ideological basis of most of these groups are kind of different, that renders them...
Different from what, sir?
Well, ideology in the Middle East is very deep-rooted, but in the Philippines...
Different from what we have here,
yes,
down south?
Down south. And right now, we are in the middle of a peace process. And once...
With the MILF?
With the MILF.
Not the others?
Not the others. But then, I guess you could say that people are tired of conflict and war. And let's give peace a chance. And that's where more of our Moro brothers are leaning to. So we'd like to give peace a chance, and having ourselves embroiled in this kind of thing again, the ISIS that is not going to bring us to that much wanted period of peace that we want to establish.
What do you mean by having ourselves embroiled in this? What do you mean?
Well,
talking
sometimes,
about it?
Yeah, we can talk about it because, as always, there will always be a threat existing. And that's why your armed forces, your police, they're always on the alert. Intelligence agencies are always keeping their ears open for anything because we don't want anything that can just come out and destroy everybody's normal lives. So we keep watch. So keeping watch entails a continuous process. So, but talking about it also is, it could be healthy, but at the same time, it may not do us any good because there are a lot of other problems that we need to talk about, like moving this country forward, keeping that basic Bangsamoro law going, and the consultations getting finished, and then finally passing it.
It might just derail all these efforts
Kind of,
towards peace, etc.,
yeah,
development.
something like that.
Yeah.
And,
When you say that the ideology in the Middle East is different and as deeply rooted as it is, very different from what we have here. So, if it's deeply rooted there, here down south, what is it?
Here, essentially, what is happening among those that have initially declared an allegiance to the previous Muslim organizations that have been very militant, have been ideological, but now it's turning out more of for economic reasons.
Economic reasons,
Yes, economic
fundraising,
reasons. Something like that. You can
making
say
money.
something to keep them afloat, be able to get on with their lives with the extra cash or whatever. So that is kind of where we see our basis for saying that the ISIS will not be able to take off in the Philippines.
So the ideologies don't converge at any certain
It may-
point, and
it
therefore
may initially-
there is no presence.
Yeah, it may initially, but it doesn't take root and it won't take long. It kind of fizzles out earlier.
So there is no intelligence information whatsoever
Yes.
that there is ISIS here.
Yes.
Nothing. Jose, you said no also.
Well, because we're talking about ISIS as an organization, okay? It evolved out of the conditions in the Syria and Iraq conflicts, okay?
Yeah.
So it's very specific. That's why it's called ISIL. Sometimes it's Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, okay? Then to say that such an organization has already come to the Philippines and taken root here is not, I think, present now, okay? I'm not going to discount that. In the length and breadth of time that that organization has existed, and some individuals have managed to come to the Philippines, but to set up an organization here, okay, that is directed, connected to ISIL, which itself is undergoing so much pressure in the Middle East, because it's also under attack in many fronts. It's under attack from the Syrian army, under attack from even the Iraqi army, and even by the Iranians. And of course, coalition air power is being used. So it has so many problems with its own. So it kind of makes it difficult to have this image of this huge looming organization that is spreading its tentacles all around the world, when it itself seems to have problems of its own. And it's still questionable if it will survive the next few years at the rate states are trying to stamp it out. Okay, so that's one. Second, also, without having to repeat what Colonel Padilla said, is also the difference in culture, okay, and social makeup here. Well, we would, what we might be, we should watch out for most likely would be what so-called lone wolf types of individuals. But even that is still debatable if a lone wolf is possible in the Philippines, because again of the different social cultural society that we have, okay. A lone wolf is possible in societies, in Western societies, okay?
Because
they have no psychological support, you know, something like that, okay? Like, that's why you have these crazies.
they have no psychological support, meaning like
like for example, let's say if you look at the Australian guy, okay,
Yeah.
down in Australia, the guy was they said he was mentally unstable or something like that.
a bit cuckoo.
Big cuckoo, okay? Because sometimes if you're in these societies, you're isolated, okay? So it tends to feed on such types of behavior that you end up shooting everybody left and right, okay?
And we don't have those types of people here.
We don't. I mean, in the past, since we have amoks, okay, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying here basically is that in the past, how long? 15 years since 9/11, right? Yeah, 15
Almost
years.
15 years.
Almost 15 years
Almost.
since 9/11, when we had all of these things they're saying about Al Qaeda coming here. We'll have suicide bombers left and right. Still, nothing of that sort happened. So there's some cultural explanation to that. We don't have enough time to talk about that, basically. Okay?
Yes, thank you for reminding me, Jose. Let's go to Carlos. Carlos, your answer was yes.
I do agree with a lot of the statements from my fellow guests. When I say yes, I mean that long gone are the days that Al Qaeda would send a video or a statement to Al Jazeera and that would be it, and everyone would accept that. I think it's very challenging today for the intelligence services of any country to keep track of extremist activity. And while the armed forces may have not confirmed the information that's online, I do think there is sufficient evidence in the videos posted on YouTube to suggest that there is, on one side, several Abu Sayyaf commanders have sworn allegiance. For what reasons, we can speculate about that endlessly. And there has been foreign presence that either at the time or later on ended up becoming part of ISIS. So the same way I say yes, there is a presence. Would I be concerned that this presence is going to have a true effect for the Philippines? I would say no. Based on my experience from before, like when I arrived here, one of my first stories was when the death of Janjalani was confirmed, and I learned more about the activities of Abu Sayyaf in the country. I came to the understanding that why were the armed forces really going after Indonesians when what they were really doing was in fact training fighters from other countries to come here? Because let's be honest, it's a lot easier to get into the Philippines from Sabah than to go to Sydney, Australia on a plane. So would I be concerned for the Philippines? No. Would I be concerned if I was from a Western country or Syria or Iraq, that they will be able to come here, receive training, try their best to indoctrinate locals here? They will try, but I do agree with Colonel Padilla that it's unlikely. The ideological component of ISIS in the Middle East is huge, and there really has never been that component in any extremist organization in the Philippines. Definitely not Abu Sayyaf for a very, very long time.
Are there any like wannabes, aspirants, fundraisers, that kind? So, we may not have the armed elements here, but maybe the beginnings, for example?
I don't know. It's
It's hard to say.
I just don't see it. I mean, it may not be the right expression, but I just feel that a lot of people may be jumping on the ISIS bandwagon the same way everyone jumped on. Well, everyone. A lot of extremist groups jumped on the Al Qaeda bandwagon back in after 9/11, and they jumped on the Jemaah Islamiyah bandwagon after Bali in 2002. What effect did that have for the Philippines? Minimal.
Yes, Jose.
As I said, the difference between Al Qaeda and ISIS is the fact that it's driven by the hatred between two sectarian groups. Okay, the Sunnis and Shia. So it's really specific to that particular region. The hatred. That's why if you look the amount of vitriol and massacres that they do, and atrocities they do against non-members of ISIS. Is not just ideological driven, it's also driven by so much history behind that particular, within that particular region. History that is different in certain parts, in other parts of the world. Like here, we don't have that here, okay? So you may have, let's say, an Al-Qaeda, an Abu Sayyaf member wave the black flag of ISIS, but it doesn't necessarily make him into that bloodthirsty ISIS guy or capable of doing that.
Yeah, it doesn't catch the attention of ISIS half the world away.
Yes, it's like he can wave, he can say this is a Martian, but the Abu Sayyaf guy can say he's a Martian, but it's not necessarily a Martian. It's like that. It's really like that.
Anybody can claim anything?
Yeah, everybody can claim anything.
It's kind of like building on your lone wolf theory.
Yes.
That random commander that will raise the black flag, yes, he is doing that, and yes, that does mean presence. But in my opinion, that lone wolf is nowhere near as dangerous as an Australian lone wolf that may come here. to receive the training or to receive the indoctrination or to try to raise funds and go back to Australia to commit an attack. A Filipino lone wolf is like my guest said, a totally alien concept. I cannot imagine that the sense of privacy in this country just doesn't exist. I've never seen anyone alone ever. It's a very family-oriented country and group-oriented country. That idea is just kind of alien to the Philippines.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Colonel Padilla, but what you're saying is the AFP and I guess the PFP also. You are monitoring things and your intelligence gatherers are on the ball.
That's part and parcel of the responsibilities of your armed forces and your police, and at the same time of the intelligence machineries that have been created to look after those. So there may have been a little that have been seen, but they have really no firm basis that it's going to take some root. So that's why we say there's none.
Okay. Final words. You have 20 seconds each. Carlos?
Well, I really would be surprised if ISIS does take root here.
Thank you. Jose?
Well, we have to be wary also, not just of ISIS, but also of certain people who use scare tactics, who scare all of us. Okay, we have to look at the issues really and see if they're valid.
Who's scaring us?
Well,
name them.
Well, some analysts.
Some analysts, like someone who's not here tonight. Thank you, Jose. Colonel Padilla?
We have a lot to thank for PF for what we have been experiencing in the Philippines. The family bonds that we have, it's kind of strong even among different religions. It's a given. And for that, it lessens the threat that imposes on society. But be that as it may, the armed forces, the police, the intelligence agencies that we have in the country don't let their guard down, and we keep on the watch for anything that may come out.
All right, thank you very much. Carlos, thank you. Jose, thank you. You're joining us for the next segment, Pemberton?
Yes.
My goodness. And Colonel Padilla, you'll still be here. We need to talk about that. We'll take a short break. News.PH will be right back. Stay with us.
The judicial process will continue here. The Philippine government has asserted jurisdiction in the case under the Visiting Forces Agreement. So we will proceed with the judicial process under Philippine law as required by the Visiting Forces Agreement. What we've done with the Philippines is to come to what I think is a very good solution to the custody issue. The suspect, until this point, soon to be accused, Mr. Pemberton, has been held at Camp Aguinaldo on Philippine soil, but under U.S. custody. So we have done the security within the facility where he's kept, but it's on a Philippine base, and the perimeter security is handled by the armed forces of the Philippines. The Philippine government has notified us that it will request custody as it can under the Visiting Forces Agreement, but we, under the Visiting Forces Agreement, can decide, as we will, to retain custody throughout the judicial proceedings.
Welcome back. This is News.PH. Still with us, Colonel Restituto Padilla Jr., the spokesman of the Armed Forces, and, sige na nga, hindi professor, Jose Custodio, defense analyst. We also have Olongapo Prosecutor, Attorney Emelie de los Santos on the phone. We're talking about this arrest warrant that is out for the American Marine, Joseph Scott Pemberton, for killing a Filipino transgender woman in Subic in October. So the first question is, Ambassador Goldberg said the U.S. will maintain custody of Pemberton. Can the U.S. do that, or should they make a request first? What is the exact wording of the Visiting Forces Agreement? What does it allow the U.S. to do?
I'm not the legal expert here, but based on what we know and how we understand the agreement, yes, they can do that. They can retain custody until after the judicial process is done.
Okay, after the judicial process is over, that means until there is a final judgment.
Yes.
Jose, what does the VFA say?
Exactly the same also, until the judicial process is over, then that's when the sentence is.
Yeah, and no need for the U.S. to make a request which can be denied by the Philippine government.
But it depends.
What?
No need to.
No need to make a request.
Does it say that in the?
I think it's explicit in the agreement. We'll have to consult lawyers because
Yes.
every part of the law is subject to interpretation by a legal luminary. That's why even lawyers, they disagree among themselves. That's why it's hard to really.
But the thing is that just in the case of Daniel Smith, he was in custody of the Americans when the judicial proceedings were going on, and we did not.
We asked for custody.
Yeah, but the Americans did not.
They didn't hand him over.
They didn't hand him over.
Yeah.
So they have. But until judicial proceedings are over.
Okay. So if they can do that, there is nothing we can do. Ganun ba yun?
Apparently so. There must be nothing that we can do up until judicial proceedings are over. If he's found guilty and he is sentenced, okay, then he will have to be turned over, right?
Yes, he will have to spend his time in sidebar in the Philippines.
That is granted. Sorry. If you look at the statement of the ambassador, if the judicial proceedings are considered also fair, they have to be considered fair also, because if not, then there will be problems also. So at least in our side, we are the Philippines is very careful in doing this thing. That the officials involved in this are judiciously are careful in what they're doing. Okay, so we don't give the Americans a reason not to honor the not to hold on to Pemberton.
Well, the DFA through Charles Jose said it was disappointed that the U.S. wanted to retain custody. So if the DFA is disappointed, what are we going to do next? What should we be doing next?
Well, the next most logical thing to do for everyone is to expedite the case. Yeah. And as soon as we expedite the case and get it done within a very judicious and fair manner, then we get somebody sentenced. And
that's the only time that
there's
the
no other
Philippines
reason
can get
to
its
retain custody.
Again, can't have the case. That's the only thing we can do. Wait for the case to take its course. Okay, not to go into. And another thing also is not to get pressured by what they call it. The term that I'm using here is bonfire of the vanities. It's like a trial by publicity. All the pressure, all the statements that he is guilty before being proven. So just to be sober about everything, okay? Be careful and sober about everything. That's what we can do, okay? Not to because the thing with this case is that it's simply a simple murder case, okay? It's nothing at all to do with the RP-US Mutual Defense Treaty. There are some factions who would like to turn it into a litmus test for RP-US Mutual Defense Treaty. No, it's not. It's just a simple murder case. Actually, after Pemberton gets his time here, it's also possible that even in the U.S. he will also be undergoing a court-martial, if I'm correct, because if it's proven that he did commit crimes here, he will also have to face the American military judicial system, if I'm correct. Okay, but the thing is that we should not succumb, especially it's being an election period in the next few months, that we will have certain politicians, senators, actually one senator is already making noises about it, calling for review and so on. No, we should not do those things that would just obfuscate the issue and just concentrate on the legal merits. Did Pemberton
concentrate on the case? So let's forget about amending the visiting force agreement or reviewing it and making it in the eyes of some people a little bit fairer for the Philippines.
After this, but here's the thing, you can review something and apply it to this thing also. The Americans won't accept that also because the agreement was signed. We passed through the VFA passed through the Philippine Senate also in the late 1990s. So So we actually agreed on that, and then
Right.
suddenly we're going to say, no, 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 we want to change it
No,
because
we
said-
changed our minds. We
we
want to
changed.
change
No,
it.
they will not accept that. Okay, so we stick to the agreement, we stick to our word also, and
Yeah.
this thing take its course.
Professor Renato de Castro was suggesting, why don't we have a joint detention facility?
That's a possibility, and but there has to be an agreement. This we have the process of the VFA working here, and the reconsultations are supposed to be done, and I think it's ongoing smoothly. And if there's an agreement, then it could be done. But we leave it to the lawyers and the
Yes.
people negotiating this to decide on that.
And where would that joint detention facility be?
It may be
In Campo
anywhere.
Guinaldo, where he is
It
right
could be
now.
the same place.
They put it in Bilibid.
Maybe in Bilibid.
Yeah, there's
That's
yeah,
a nice segue
possibly.
to
There are nice rooms
the
there.
last segment. Very nice rooms.
Nice
With
rooms,
jacuzzi. With the jacuzzi. Okay, we're going to have to take a short break. We'll continue this discussion when we come back. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH. I'm Pio Ontiveros. Still with us, Colonel Padilla, Armed Forces spokesman, and Jose Custodio, defense analyst. Olongapo prosecutor, Attorney Emelie de los Santos, joins us on the phone now. Ma'am, good evening.
Good evening, Pia. Good evening to our viewers.
Ma'am, should we be insisting on custody at this point?
What do you mean insisting? Of course, we would like to insist on the custody of the accused be under the Philippines, but still we have to consider our diplomatic agreement with the United States of America.
Okay. Colonel Padilla here and Jose Custodio, defense analyst, were saying that what we should do is expedite the case, make things go faster so that if indeed he is guilty, that's the time that we get custody of him. You agree, ma'am?
Yeah. The objective is really to finish the case because we are given only 1 year from the filing of the information with the courts to finish or determinate all the proceedings. That means it should be promulgated. I'm reading of the sentence or whatever, if it's favorable or not to the Philippines.
So we should finish this. So we should finish this case, ma'am, by December 2015.
Okay, it should be 1 year. 1 year from the time we filed it, December 15th.
Okay. Ma'am, can you tell us a little bit more before we let you go about the affidavits or the sworn statements of the American soldiers with Pemberton at that time? There were specific quotes from the statements. Can you confirm them? Some of them saying that Pemberton told them or told one of them that and I quote, "I think I killed a he, she," unquote.
Oh, yes. Immediately after the incident, the Marines, the 4 of them, at first were together during the liberty. But the 3 Marines, Lance Corporal Pulido, Dal, and Rose, went ahead of Pemberton to the ship, back to the ship. And Pemberton came in a few 5 minutes later, late than the 3. And immediately when they were ordered to get into the ship, Pemberton told his friend or buddy, Lance Corporal Rose, about his experience. And as per the statement of Lance Corporal J. Michael Rose, he said he cocked up and that I guess he said, I think I killed a he, she.
When they issued these affidavits and gave their sworn statements, was it you who was there, or was there another representative from the Olongapo prosecutor's office?
They subscribed. That means they made their sworn statements under oath before our prosecutors from the office of the prosecution office in Olongapo.
Were they? Was it a question and answer style, or they offered their statements parang lock, stock, and barrel, tapos na siya.
Actually, the one that was subscribed before our prosecutors, Philippine public prosecutors, were in a question and answer style form. But the one that they executed before the National Criminal Investigation Service of the United States Navy were in form of a narrative form.
Okay. So the NCIS did help you, did help the prosecution in this case?
Yeah, in compliance with the Visiting Forces Agreement, they conducted joint parallel investigation of the case.
All right. Thank you very much, Attorney Emelie de los Santos of Olongapo Prosecutor's Office. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Jose, you want to say something?
Yeah, we'll ask first Colonel Padilla.
Yeah. Colonel Padilla?
At this point, the armed forces takes its responsibility in this situation very seriously. That we have to work closely with our American counterparts, that Lance Corporal Pemberton will be inside the detention facility, and that at any time that we are required or that they are required to present the accused, he will be around to be and ready to face the court.
When he was first brought to Campo Aguinaldo, we understand that he was restrained. I'm not sure, was it
He had
handcuffs or
his
something?
handcuffs
And his hands chained also to his feet, right?
we didn't see it exactly, but
That's what it looked like.
it's a standard procedure on the part of similar instances or incidents like this when they transport an accused or someone, a person of interest, that they would make sure that he is restrained properly and that it will minimize any possibility of he hurting others and hurting himself.
Hurting himself. Because earlier you had said that this Pemberton has suicidal tendencies.
Well, it was not directly, we didn't get it directly from the detention facility, but we heard it from another source. And that's why we cannot confirm it. But being a 19-year-old who has just gone out of a ship, staying there for a long time, and I think this was his first major exercise.
Yeah, his first trip out of
Yes,
the United
and then coming
States.
back after a very traumatic experience, I think anyone in their right mind would feel depressed. So, especially after having been informed probably that the case is progressing and this is where it is right now. So, most of the time in a day, a prisoner is alone in their cell. So, much to their thoughts and not being able to communicate with anybody. So, it's a very high probability that he is.
Okay. Final words, Jose?
Like I said a while ago, is that this case should be treated as a murder case and not blown out of proportion, as so many people out there are trying to do, and make it a litmus test of Philippine RPS. As we can see by the Olongapo prosecutor's statements herself, that the U.S. is working together with us. Those are the things. There are many positive actions that the U.S. is doing, but however, people are concentrating on the custody issue.
Custody issue.
When it's
Well,
just one element, we fail to look at the NCIS helping. Fail to look at the guy is in Aguinaldo already.
Yeah.
So
And his four soldiers.
and the four
issuing
soldiers
statements.
issuing statements that implicate
pin him down.
Pin him down. So those are actions done by the Americans, and unfortunately, it's all being buried under this issue of what's it called, custody, when despite the fact that if Pemberton gets convicted, he will be handed over and he will face jail time here.
Okay. Sir, final words?
First off, let's highlight the cooperation extended by the United States. The prosecutor has mentioned that the NCIS has extended everything to them, full cooperation in accordance with the agreement, and they have stuck to the agreement. So these are things that we should be talking about too, not just discussing a singular issue like what Mr. Custodio was saying a while ago, and I agree with him. So the larger issue here is that we want justice done, and we will not deny the family that. And I think it is ongoing, and everybody's cooperating.
Yeah,
So, as the prosecutor said, the prescription period is for 1 year. I think government is bent on being able to do that even before the time is up.
Well, thank you very much to your guests. Colonel Padilla, thank you, sir, and Jose Custodio, Defense Analyst, thank you. You're not going to join us in the next segment, although, if we're going to talk about the new Bilibid, hindi ba? There were suggestions that the AFP would take over. Pero,
Yes, there was from the VACC, and thank you very much, VACC, for having the confidence in the armed forces, but we are totally
no
out of
thanks.
that department.
That's not constitutional, I think.
Yeah, and based on your suggestions, Jose, maybe the joint detention facility could be new Bilibid, but
Yeah, there are a lot of entertainment stuff there.
thank you very much, Jose and Colonel Padilla.
Thank you, Via.
When we come back, the new Bilibid Resort Hotel, question mark. We're taking a short break. Please stay with us. News.PH will be right back. Welcome back to News.PH. Our guest, Director Franklin Bucayu of the Bureau of Corrections. We're going to talk about the new Bilibid prisons, or is it the new Bilibid Resort Hotel? Sir, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Pia.
How did you get that post?
Yeah, when I was about to retire, actually
What
I
year was
retired
that?
early,
What year was that, sir?
2013, early 2013, and the secretary whom I have worked before when I was in the Philippine National Police knows me. I was the chief of the Human Rights Affairs Office of the Philippine National Police. So she took me as the chief of that office.
Yeah. Okay. And what did she tell you? What did she tell you? What were you preparing for?
Yeah.
Did you know what you were going to get into?
When I took over, I asked guidance from her, and she told me very simple. She said, follow law and conscience.
Okay.
And that's it. I didn't know that this is how big and tough the job is.
Did you know what you were getting into at that time?
Come on.
Did you know what you were getting into at that time?
No, I didn't expect that this is how deep the problem is. And looking at the Bureau of Correction now and back, it has been neglected for so long, decades and decades back. In fact, the facility that we have in the new Bilibid prison has been built in 1935, and there was no major repairs or development in that kind of a facility.
Yeah. Did you know about what was going on inside? Were you aware that there were certain cells or rooms that were belonged to the how shall we call them? The richer inmates that were there. Did you know that?
When I took over, there have been a lot of reports in that, and we tried to stop this. Actually, we have a lot of recovery.
Recovery meaning?
Of recovery of contraband, cell phones, electronic gadgets, and the likes.
Electronic gadgets like what, sir?
Like booster,
Boosters.
yeah,
Okay.
Wi-Fi, and so on. So this suggests that there are, But
Kailan po yung mga recovery na yun, sir? What year? This year?
This year,
This year.
yes,
Okay.
we have recovered about 1,000 cell phone. And para maintindihan natin yung Bureau of Correction, kailangan malaman natin yung setup and the situation. Yeah, always I said, everyone nagtataka doon. Why is this like this? Kasi kung titignan natin, if we are asked, ano ba itsura ng isang jail? What comes to our mind is a 4-walled room with bars. We don't have that. If that is Model A, we don't have Model A. We have probably Model B. We have a 4-walled town. Town. So when you go in there, you
It's
will
like,
see big buildings divided into dormitories. Inmates sleep there at night. In the morning, they just walk around the 9-hectare land of the maximum security prison. And what we have there right now are 14,000 inmates. But the capacity is supposed to be only 4,000. So
Okay.
that is
What are
the
you saying, sir?
congestion.
We can solve a lot of problems if we had 4 walled cells with bars
Yes.
for each inmate.
Yeah. Tama ka
Bale,
Pia.
14,000
Tama
of
ka.
them.
Tama ka, Pia. No? A prison institution is highly dependent on facility. Kaya nga prison. And what is in there that we should have? The facility should have a very effective segregation and classification.
Okay.
If we don't have that, then
Yeah.
ito na. You have a town.
Oo.
Practically a town.
Is it within your power to initiate a project that will change the way the prison is run?
Yeah.
Can you do that? In other words, yung sinasabi po ninyo na 4 walled cell for each of the 14,000 inmates, is it within your power to say that, or to lobby for the funds for it,
Yeah.
or for a project like that?
We are actually proposing that. We are actually proposing that so that we can have this segregation. Segregation, because ito yung strategy ng prison. Because you have to segregate high-risk inmate from highly violent, suicidal, mentally ill, and so on and so on. You have to segregate them.
Yes.
And why do we do this? We should do this to be able to formulate therapeutic and reformative remedy to a kind of
Yeah.
group.
Yeah. Oo.
Without segregation, they're all mixed up. Napakahirap.
Yeah. Sir, can we go back to my earlier question about are you aware that there were things like this? So we saw everything,
Yes,
no?
yes.
Monday morning. LED TV sets, air conditioners, the
Yeah,
window type,
yeah.
meron pang inverter, the bathtub, the jacuzzi, musical equipment, the keyboards, etc. Everything.
Is there?
Cash,
Yeah.
lots of cash in all those vaults, safety
Yeah.
vaults. Were you aware that they were there?
I have an inkling, but I have some doubt yet at that time because although we have been receiving, I said,
Information.
nakaka-recover tayo information, naka-recover tayo ng mga shabu, we recover electronic gadget and so on. And because of that, we formulated a plan to really validate it, and that's the operation.
That is the
that we had.
operation.
Yes, and lo and behold, we saw all of this.
Yeah.
This-
So you're saying na hindi pwedeng kayo lang, you and the jail guards go in and try to confiscate. That's not going to work. Obviously, it
Actually,
wouldn't because
the situation, I said we have 14,000 inmates. How many guards do we have?
yeah. How many guards do you have?
We have only, in that facility, we have only about 500 or less
Okay.
in that facility. So, actually, yung nagbabantay lang for some time, 40 to 50 in a 3-shift. So, kulang, no? And added to this, of course, because of the neglect for so long in the facility and
Yeah.
in the training and education of our personnel themselves, kailangan upgrade kasi ng competency
Yes,
and
yes.
trustworthiness.
Oo.
Medyo nag-develop na through time ng bad
Bonds.
culture. Bad culture. I would say it's a bad culture. Na
Okay.
ito na.
Do you trust all your guards?
How many?
Do you trust all your guards? All
well,
the jail guards?
That's the reason why we got some assistance from the outside. No?
Yeah. So the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
You cannot trust all of them.
Not all. Kasi we wanted to validate and we want to be sure na hindi masusunog. Meron tayong aabutan.
Yeah.
But let me explain further. What is in those big buildings
Yes.
divided into dormitories? We saw it nung tayo'y nagpunta ron, searching, that you cannot just go inside, no? Maliligaw ka. Because parang dumadaan ka sa tunnel,
Escalator.
kang gumagawa sa pasilyo.
Pasilyo sa Divisoria.
Yes, sa Divisoria, lot of inmates there na may mga pasikot-sikot. Kung hindi mo alam yung pupuntahan mo, baka hindi ka na makarating doon. Remember?
Baka hindi ka na makalabas.
Hindi ka na makalabas ng ano mo.
Yeah.
And many of them, many of these rooms are doon sa dulo-dulo.
Okay. So in other words, there are some rooms they're not even called cells. There are some rooms na hindi talaga nararating or no jail guard has set foot in some of
Maaaring
those
hindi
rooms.
nila nabibisita or hindi nila nire-report.
Yeah. So what are the jail guards doing? Nagpapatrol sila sa labas.
Nagpapatrol
Hindi
sa labas.
pumapasok sa loob. Yung mga kwarto, sir, na merong mga jacuzzi, etc. Yun ba hindi pwedeng pasukan ng mga gwardiya? Jail guards
Supposed to be,
cannot
they
go
have
in.
to.
They
This
have
is
to,
the
they
job.
should.
Yes, they have to.
But apparently they don't, because if all those items are inside, then
Yes.
they would have long ago been removed, right?
Yes, or they are keeping it in themselves. Themselves.
Okay.
So, ito yung mga nakikita natin. Masabi ko lang, Bucor is the national office, and under Bucor are 7 colonies. We call it colonies, but now ang tawag ito prison and penal farms. So, the NBP, the New Bilibid Prison, is only one of them. So, bawat colony o bawat prison and penal farms is being run by a superintendent. Nagkataon lamang dito sa Muntinlupa, co-located ang NBP at saka Bucor. So, merong superintendent na nagpapatakbo niyan.
Ng NBP.
Ng NBP. And we still have 6 more being run. No, pareho na. Like
Okay.
in the likes of the CIW, the Correctional Institute for Women, dito sa Mandaluyong. We have the Iwahig. We have the Davao Penal Colony,
Yes.
the Leyte Penal Colony,
Yeah.
the Sablayan Penal Colony in Mindoro, and we have the San Ramon Prison in
Okay.
Zamboanga.
Yeah. So, are you saying that if anyone should really be held liable for this, it should be the superintendent of the New Bilibid prison?
Yes, most likely, yeah. Because dapat ito ay nati-check nila. However, what I'm trying also to say is that since I came down, nagpunta ako doon, I have reshuffled 5 times already.
Reshuffled, pero umiikot lang yung mga...
Lipat ko. Naglalagay tayo. We are fine-tuning and see the right combination and the right people to be placed in that position. Well, sabi ko nga kanina, there have been bad culture that have developed already or maybe a bonding. So, and that's already the practice. So, parang nakatulog na sa matagal na panahon, ganito na lang ng ganito.
Yeah. Is it like this in the other prisons and penal farms?
Ganon din ang setup.
Ganun din.
Ganon din setup. Ang ating National Penitentiary, ang setup en masse. Wala din effective segregation. Ang segregation talaga ang magdadala dyan. Kasi dapat nahihiwalay natin yan para makapagbigay tayo ng tamang therapeutic remedy sa bawat isang grupo.
Well, have you pushed for that changing that
Yes,
form,
we
or-
have. Actually, we have a good development. Originally, in 1905, it was called Bureau of Corrections, called Bureau of Prison, in the old New Bilibid. And it transferred to the New Bilibid in 1935. And then in 1987, during the time of President Cory Aquino, binalta ng pangalan based on the Administrative Act of 1987. They changed the name to Bureau of Correction in 1987. And then it took 26 years later, 2013, last year, na doon lang tayo nagkaroon ng Modernization Law, Act of 2013, upang modernize and upgrade, professionalize ang Bureau of Correction.
Why do you say, sir, that you will not resign? You said earlier that you will not resign.
Yeah. Well, I can resign. I just wanted to tell the people that tayo ngayon nagpapabago dito. These are all happening during our time. Okay, we have computerized the inmates' record, and because of that, we were able to release. Would you believe this? We were able to release 81 inmates who have been languishing in jail for so long.
You mean they had already served their sentences?
Yeah, they have served already. Dapat naka-release na.
Okay.
So we have computerized this. Ngayon lang, mga marami tayong pagbabagong nilalagay dyan. Actually, we are restructuring, reorganizing, retraining, reindoctrinating our personnel and the organization. And I am trying to revise the manual now. So ito yung mga pagbabagong pinasok natin. Kasama na nga itong nangyayari ngayon. No?
Well, should you replace all the jail guards of the new Bilibid prison?
I wanted to.
All?
Kaya lang,
Replace all?
we wanted to, but kukunti na rin ang pagpipilian. Kukunti na rin ang pagpupunan.
Okay.
So, kailangan na talaga natin dito siguro massive training.
Training, even if there
training and
is a
education.
culture already?
Yeah, maybe we can,
You mean you can rehabilitate the jail guards?
yeah, I think so.
Ah, yeah?
Kasi napabayaan na rin sila. Do you know that the salary of our prison guard is half the salary of our contemporary doon sa BJMP? Kalahati lang.
Magkano, sir? How much is
I think it's 12 or 11.
So that
level
means-
5.
So you're saying they
level
succumb
10.
to temptation because they have very small salaries.
Yeah, but of course, hindi naman yan reason para gumawa ka ng pagkakamali.
Pero ganun
But
ang-
what I'm saying is that napabayaan din talaga. Lahat na rito. Facility, tao, sistema,
Oo.
napalitan.
Si Dionisio Santiago, former NPP, was also saying that in his time, meron daw nag-offer sa kanya, no? Isang politiko at isang negosyante, a businessman not a congressman, a politician, 5 million pesos in exchange for the return of a prisoner who had been moved to Leyte and then wanted to be moved back to Manila.
Yeah.
Has anyone offered you a bribe? Has anyone offered you money in exchange for any favors granted to any of the inmates?
No, because they know I would not. Wala po.
Okay.
That's what.
All right. My last question, sir, is what do you think the new Bilibid prison is? Is it a prison or is it a resort spa or a hotel? What is it?
It is.
What is it really?
You know, even if you do have this and you cannot really enjoy it okay, you are not free. Nandun ka rin din sa loob. Although you can move around, it's still a prison. Still a prison. Still a prison that have been neglected for decades, for century, for that matter. Hindi na natin in-upgrade. Now we are reaping the fruits of it. Hindi naman natin in-improve. Ito na yung nangyayari ngayon. Kung in-improve natin noon, and we have really built it in accordance to its purpose, we professionalize our guards, inayos natin ang system, it will be a very, shall I say, a prison that we can depend on. No.
Okay.
By the way, the prison is part of the criminal justice system. Kahit na-improve natin yung ibang parts of it, itong prison, hindi natin in-improve, then hindi pa rin kompleto. Kasi nandito na yung katuparan ng sentensya sa kanila.
Okay. Thank you very much, Director Bucayu, for being here. Final words from you. Very briefly lang po.
Yeah. Sa ating pamumuno po ay makakaasa ang publiko na ating ginagawa sa abot na ating makakaya, within our makakaya, na ito ay tumakbo as a prison, as real prison. Kailangan lang po natin dito na tayo ay matulungan doon sa mga bagay na hindi naman natin kayang, not within our reach. Like, we need a small-scale facility for segregation, and then the real implementation of the modernization law para yung ating mga tao ma-professionalized at mabigay naman yung tamang sahod ng para sa kanila na matagal na rin nilang inaasam-asam.
All right. Thank you very much, Director Bucayu. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, welcome.
And thank you for watching. See you again next Wednesday. Good night.